the idea of today's meet and greet was for her to meet you and you to meet her, so that when you leave this room today, you are energized. You can go back to your family and your friends and your neighborhood, and when conversations of this governor's race comes up, you can join in. And you need to join in, and you need to tell people why you're voting for her. Because regardless of what the polls say, regardless, and we're all political junkies in and of itself in this room, to a certain degree, are we not? We believe that we can make a difference on the local level. We believe in good policy. We believe in good government. We understand what polls mean, but we don't always rely on them, do we? No, we don't. And regardless of those elected Democrats who have turned their back on this party, I say shun them. Because no one will tell me that Barbara Buono, sitting as the governor of this state, is not capable of helping the victims of Sandy. Don't believe that for a minute. And I don't believe for a minute that anyone in an urban area, that they are choosing somebody else for governor because she's incapable of helping the urban people. I don't believe that, do you? No. You know why I don't believe that? Because I know her. I know her. I know that she's a mother, she's a wife, she's an attorney, she's a proven leader, she has a voice, she has a mouth, and she uses it. And she uses it for us. And you know what else she does? She's the only one that stood up and is running as the Democratic candidate for you and I. So when everybody else decided to take a pass, and that's what they did, they took a pass. The senator didn't. And she's out there fighting for you and me. And as women, she's fighting, along with Linda Stender, who understands, and Annette Keanu, who understands what they're doing to women's health care in the state of New Jersey. We reject that. And we understand that Barbara is here working for us and the hundreds of thousands of unemployed. Because as the mayor in Fanwood and working in Roselle, it's a shout out to my friend in Roselle, I understand the amount of people that are out of work. And I understand that minimum wage isn't enough to live in New Jersey and pay your bills and put food on the table, good food on the table, for your kids and your family. So with that, I am so proud of each and every one of you of choosing to be here with us today. I am so proud that I get to welcome a friend, a woman who's going to be the next governor of the state of New Jersey. Union County, put your hands together and welcome Senator Barbara Buono.
But Jerry Green, Chairman Green, and I sat next to each other on the floor of the Assembly for many years, and we shared a lot of stories, and we commiserated, and it's kind of interesting where we've come full circle. And I don't know if you read NJ Spotlight, but recently Mahr-Mayor, go online, type in NJ Spotlight, and Christy Todd Whitman, Buono, whatever, and they will talk about the effect of gender. And I don't like, we're not supposed to talk about this, but this is, Friends, so I'm going to talk about it. And they talked about gender. And Christy Todd Whitman, she is my heroine now. I got to tell you, she was very up in your face. Of course, she has nothing to lose now, but that's all right, I'll take it. And she said that people asked her at a conference, well, what's the effect of gender? How did that affect you as governor of the state of New Jersey? And you know what she said? She said that you will never be part of the old boys club. You will never, and this resonated for me, you will never be anyone's first choice. And there will always be some amount of sexism involved. And you know what? All right, Christy, I'm right there behind you. I'm going to do it. We're going to do it together. And I'm so happy to be here. You know why? Because we are the Democratic Party. We're the party of opportunity and equality and justice for everyone. And you know what? I'm not giving up on the Democratic Party. I will never give up on the Democratic Party. We just celebrated Independence Day. I was driving up here in my bus for Progress, where the air conditioning wasn't the best, but all right, we're all right. And we went past, I'm going to stand in front of this, some flags, and it reminded me that we just celebrated Independence Day. And, with Independence Day, we celebrate hope and opportunity that is the United States of America. You know, we celebrated our nation, right? Our nation, where if you come to our shores of the United States of America, and if you work hard, our promise is that you should be able to live a good life, right? That's the American dream. And so when my father and my two grandparents came here from Italy so many years ago in the 1920s, they came here, they couldn't speak a lick of English. And they came here for one reason and one reason alone, and that was opportunity. And that's the American dream. But you know what? We are at a crossroads in New Jersey, aren't we? We are at a crossroads. We have over 400,000 out of work. We have the highest, and honestly, I don't relish saying this, but I have to say the facts. The facts are the facts. We have the highest rate of unemployment in the region, and one of the lowest rates of job creation and economic growth in the nation. And you know what? You know, I was thinking about it, you know, because I have 6 kids, and I was thinking about the fact that, you know what, today, all these children, so many thousands of children woke up hungry in New Jersey, and they will go to sleep hungry tonight. And yet, we have a governor, Assemblywoman, that just came home from yet another out-of-state trip. Chairman and vice chairwoman, and this time from Idaho. And yet, 26 days have passed since the United States Supreme Court rendered a decision essentially gutting the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act, which is the signature accomplishment of the civil rights movement. And this is a governor who's not averse to giving his opinion, even when he's not asked. This time he was asked 3 times, and he had no opinion. You know, he said, what's your opinion on the Voting Rights Act? And you know, I had to pitch myself. Are we in 2013? I mean, I remember reading, you know, that how people would stand in line for hours just to register to vote, and then they would be turned away. How people were given literacy tests, or how to pay to vote. I thought those days of Jim Crow were gone. Right? And yet, you know, we have the United States Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts decided to render an opinion. And he said, well, the days of Jim Crow are over. And so we need to lift any of that restriction and oversight on those southern states in particular that have a history of legitimizing racism and bigotry. And you know what? These voter registration act, the voter ID laws that so many states, it became the rage when Obama was up for re-election, just so happened, black president, right? And he decided that those days are gone, so we can lift those restrictions. Well, you know what? Jim Crow may be done, but those laws have the same intent, don't they? They have the same intent. And yet our governor, who would be the man who would be president, has no opinion. Go on YouTube, check it out. He said, oh, you know, I haven't had a chance. He was very dismissive. And you got to watch his affect and his demeanor. He said, oh, you know, he's trying, you know, Mr. Jersey. I didn't have a chance to read it. You know, I can read just so much in my car. I was reading the comptroller's report. Well, you know what? What is more important to you as governor, as someone who wants to be president, than an assault on our civil rights, and than an attack on the United States of America's, the very core of democracy, our right to vote? And then the second issue, obviously, we all are very, very focused on this because our president, our great president, made the most compelling speech on racism in America, even better than his first speech, right? You agree? Yesterday? We got to talk about it, folks. We have to talk about it. We have to say something. We know it's there. It's right in the middle of the room. We can't ignore it. And yet, we have laws on the book that actually legitimize vigilantism that allow this jury to return the verdict that they did. And we have a governor in the state of New Jersey that has been mute, who has been silent. And you'll forgive me, but I've been in church a lot these days. And so forgive me if I quote scripture, but the book of Proverbs calls on all of us, for those who do not have a voice, we should speak out for those who do not have a voice. And this governor's silence is outrageous. Outrageous. That's not leadership. That is not leadership. And we live in New Jersey where we have, our schools are underfunded. He's somebody who actually vetoed a minimum wage increase, tying it to a cost of living, even though people earning a minimum wage have to rely on food stamps and live in public housing. That's an embarrassment. This is the governor who vetoed it, right? And yet, he thinks it's okay to spend at least, when we don't know how much it's going to cost, at least $24 million on this frivolous special election that's only going to serve to confuse, to disenfranchise voters, only to serve his own political ambition. And that's wrong. And we need to stand up and we need to speak out. And that's why we're here today. I know, but it's all about priorities, isn't it? And we know what his priorities are, right? His priorities are not the middle class and the working poor. His priorities are the powerful and the privileged. And what that means is that we cannot afford to have a governor who vetoes the minimum wage, tying it to a cost of living. This means we need a governor who understands how important it is to actually tackle the foreclosure crisis. We have the second highest rate of foreclosure in the nation, and yet he sat on $300 million. Think about that. $300 million of federal funding that was supposed to keep people in their homes, prevent them from being out on the street, and he sat on it until a member of the press held his feet to the fire, and now it's still eking out, and we've given out about 20%, and that's a shame. We deserve a governor that doesn't use $75 million of a federal foreclosure settlement suit and uses it to plug a budget hole instead of keeping people in their homes. I don't know about you, but I think that in order to keep the people ahead, to keep the people first, we need to invest in our public schools. We need to make sure that our children have universal preschool. We know it works. You know, he talks a lot about charter schools and giving public taxpayer money to private parochial schools, but we know what works. Come on. It's not Barbara Buono talking to you. It's studies. It's empirical evidence that shows unequivocally that what closes the racial achievement gap is universal preschool, all-day kindergarten, and quality after-school programs. That's what works. That's what we should fund. And you know what else I think? I also think that people ought to be able to live in the towns that they work in. I think we ought to have safe communities where guns are off the street. And I think we ought to give people a second chance. There are a lot of people, a lot of our young men and women. I know a lot of them. I used to do a lot of criminal defense work, and I know what jail does to people. It ruins you. That's it. It's over. It's over. You know, it really isn't over, but you feel like it is when you talk to people and you see and you hear their stories. It just changes you. And we have so many young men and women that start their adult lives behind bars, and then they're released, and they feel as though they'll never really be free because they have a record. But I think society is better than that, don't you? And that's why I support ban the box legislation. That's why I support ban the box. Talk too much longer, but you'll give me a little time here, a little bit of time, so those who don't know me will, hear just a little bit more time. And I just think that that's where we have to be. We have to focus on what's important. We have to get back to our core values to make sure that hard work pays off, that we get guns off our streets, that we have schools that educate our children so they can be equipped for the new jobs in the global economy. And since I have a lot of women in the room, let's talk a little bit about that issue. Nowhere has this governor failed in his leadership more than when it comes to women's issues. He has been a failure in leadership. When he should have been raising his voice to support us, it has been to belittle and degrade not just women, but public employees, teachers, police, fire. I mean, this is a man who appeals to people's deepest and darkest instincts. He came into office during a global meltdown, right at the end of it, and people were anxious. They were worried. They were saying, oh my God, where's my next? What if I lose my job? What if my husband loses their job? My daughter, my son? And you know, people want to find a scapegoat. It's human nature. It's a sad reality. And you know what he did? He found the scapegoat, a convenient scapegoat. And who was that? Public employees. And he blamed public employees for all the ills in the budget. And let me tell you something. I was the first woman to chair the Budget and Appropriations Committee during the global meltdown. And I know that public employees didn't cause our fiscal woes. It was politicians that caused them. The governor who is anti-choice, anti-marriage equality, anti-pay equity, anti-Planned Parenthood, and that, you know, I take it personally. He cut year after year after year funding for women's health, causing 6 Planned Parenthood centers to close, and I know there's another one that's scheduled to close. And I take it personally, because you know, I was on my own. You all know my story. I'm not going to bore you with it. My dad died when I was 19. My mom couldn't cope. I was on my own since 19. Slept on friends' couches, and then family took me in. And I didn't have insurance, but I relied on Planned Parenthood for my health care, okay? I relied on it in Montclair, yeah. And so by doing that, he's affecting me and my daughters. My daughters, thank God, they're lucky enough to have insurance. And by what he has done with the pay equity, he called it bureaucratic nonsense. Well, you know, I think, no, he called it senseless bureaucracy. That's what he said. Well, I don't know about you, but I think that that's the only problem we have is this governor. We're going to get rid of him in November, don't you think? In New Jersey, and we're going to get rid of him in November, right? All right, and this is a governor who said he is rabidly anti-choice, and he said take it or leave it. Well, I think we're going to leave it, right? I think we should leave it. This is a governor who doesn't have the courage of any convictions beyond his own political, personal aspirations. Well, let me tell you this. And remember this, Barbara Buono, while this governor is out in the cornfields of Iowa and Idaho trying to further his political aspirations, I'll be right here in Union County looking out for your future. Count on it. Count on it. And so when people ask you why I'm running against this guy, please tell them. I'm running not against Chris Christie. I'm running for the people of New Jersey. I'm running for everyone in New Jersey. Regardless of race, creed, or ethnicity, regardless of where they live or how much they earn or who they love, I'm running for them. And if you stand with me, and this is a great turnout, thank you so much. It really invigorates me. And if you believe, I need you. I've done everything on my own in my life. You have to know this. It may be a weakness because I've been on my own, like I said, and I've always done everything on my own. I've taken great pride in it. But I can't do this one alone. I need you. I need your help. I need your voices. I need your passion. I need you to talk to your neighbors and to your friends and tell them what's happening and how it affects them. And I need you to tell them to vote and why it's so important to vote on November 5th. And I know that if we stand together, and I know you believe in a New Jersey where equality of opportunity isn't a privilege reserved for the few, but a right afforded to everyone. We will win in November, up and down the ticket.
Thank you, Governor Buono. Are you convinced, Union County? This is the woman we're going to stand with and work for. We're going to elect her governor. We're going to be proud. We're going to come together as Democrats and across our towns and our communities. And it is so invigorating for me to be here, for us to be here. I thank you so much for and